I think Inza's rejoining. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the International Women's Day webinar at Qureos. I am Hadia Malik, and I thank you all for being a part of this webinar. Before we begin, I'd like to share a bit about the Qureos platform. If this is your first time here, Qureos is a platform where we aim to transform 100 million careers by having apprentices get bite sized learning from experienced mentors and then put you together with projects where you can apply the learned concepts. We've got multiple cohorts and webinars available on the platform. You can browse, and we also have many new exciting learning streams coming up. Be a part of the Curious Tribe and accelerate your learning journey by signing up at www.curious.com. Today, we're celebrating two stellar women who have built their careers with sheer determination and passion. They have stood in the face of adversity and have broken the bias pertaining to gendered roles. We're excited to know about them, and I'm sure you are too. Feel free to ask questions in the comment section, and we will be sure to include all of them. Uh, Allow me to introduce one of our guests for today. We have been lucky enough to have with us Dana Muntan. Dana is an idea hunter. She is originally from Moldova. She's growing workplace for Meta in the EMEA region. She's passionate about mentoring, coaching, and empowering people. Dana has founded the global mentoring program by the name of Mentor Me. She did her MA in Creative and Media Enterprises at the University of Warwick. She focused on impact at Google, Next Jump, UNICEF, the government of Moldova, the Royal Society of Arts, the QED Group, the Carnegie Council for Ethics in the International Affairs, etc. Welcome, Dana. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Hadia, for inviting me, and so glad to be part of your community today.
Great. We also have with us Kinza Iqbal. Kinza is a well rounded HR executive with 6+ years of experience in healthcare, digital, and technology sectors across various HR portfolios on the country and global level. Kinza has extensive experience working closely with multinationals across Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and South Asia, and has played a prominent role in partnering with diverse HR teams to shape business transformation, drive culture change, and develop people centric solutions to maximize impact across the business. Her ambition in her work is to make a significant impact on the business transformation through talent. She has lived and worked in Pakistan and the Netherlands for the most part of her career. Currently, she's leading the talent management and organization development function at Novartis Pakistan and is also the HR business partner for their oncology division. Kinza, welcome. Thank you so much for being a part of this webinar.
Thank you so much for having me, Hadia, and Curious as well. Very happy to be here, honored to be here with Dana, and hello to everybody who's listening to us online. I really appreciate you taking the time to tune in, and excited and looking forward to the session.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Since we're going to be talking about breaking the bias in the professional world, it would be great to know where you've reached, where you are, and what has your career journey been like, how you started out. Dana, if you could just share about your career journey, and then, we can take it from there.
Brilliant. Thank you, Hadia. So I think what helped me to be what I am today is, one, by being true to myself and to my values. Two, by surrounding myself with brilliant people, especially mentors, sponsors, coaches. And three, never being afraid of changes and failures. So to give you a bit of context on my career journey, if you look at my CV, you'll be quite wondering why she started, in her second year of uni to work part-time in PR. Then she moved to journalism. Then she went for a year abroad in the US, and then she came back to launch her own startup, which was the first online HR community for Moldova. And then she decided to join UNICEF and the government of Moldova and do comms there. And that was my first leadership position. I was quite young at 23. To have that position was quite amazing. And then, I went to do my master's in creative and media enterprises at Warwick here in the UK. And then I joined a sales role. My first job in London was in sales, and I never wanted to be in sales. And then, I grew up there. I developed myself. I became the head of UK sales, to realize I actually want to do marketing now. I'm, that's what I studied. That's what I'm into. To do marketing for a bit at Google, Meta, and then realizing I miss sales. I belong to sales. I want to do sales. To go back to it and to join our first startup at Meta, first ever B2B software as a service company that was built at Meta. And I've been honored to be one of the founding members of this great new adventure and business that we're building together. So yeah, if there is any message from my career journey, is don't be afraid to experiment. Don't worry if your career journey is not linear. Actually, that could be a good thing. It shows you can wear multiple hats. It shows that you can be very valuable to any business, because, in my case, I know how PR works, I know how marketing works, I know how sales works, and I can connect the dots, and I can be a better partner for those teams. So don't try. don't be afraid to try. It's fun, and it shouldn't be penalized. And I think more companies realize that.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Donna. We're really impressed by the career that you've built for yourself. I'd like to put the same question in front of Kinza, and we'd all really like to know how you started out in your career journey and how you got where you are.
Okay, so thank you so much, Hadia. And Dana, it was really interesting to hear your part of the story. But interestingly, I guess what I would say now is completely opposite to Dana's journey, right? So for me, my career journey started back in 2015 when I had just graduated from a business school here in Islamabad. And when it comes to what I wanted to do, I knew exactly that I wanted to do HR. I knew it since my A levels because I enjoyed studying the subject, and I gave it 5-6 years, during my education, and I realized that this is what I wanted to do. So that wasn't the hard part for me. For me, I think what was difficult was that I just did not know how I would crack the code to get a job, because being from this part of the world, I don't know if it's specific to this part or if it's global, but I had this set notion in my head that I will never be able to get a job without a reference or somebody putting in a good word for me. So I knew that good grades are very important, and showing the willingness to learn, these all these things are very important. But I always thought that these are secondary. The first and the primary thing is somebody passing on your CV or somebody putting in a good word for you. And I'm not kidding when I tell you that I could not even think of one person who would do that, because from my family's perspective, they're all from a business background. So for them, the corporate world is a unicorn, and even if they do have some contacts, it's at the bank, where I obviously never wanted to work in. So I spent the last few months of my academic year very worried about how is it going to happen, what is going to happen, because I did not want to pursue my master's degree just for the sake of ticking the box, just because that's what everybody does. Let's take another year, think about what I want to do and how I want to do it. I really wanted to do my master's degree once I knew what I wanted to specialize in. I look at master's degree as that, not just, okay, I have a degree. Long story short, you hear a lot of people tell you that it's of no use to worry too much, because what's meant to happen will happen. And on my last day of the exam, I had 2 offers ready for me, choose any one. So all those sleepless nights were of no use. And the interesting part was that these 2 offers, one was an internship and the other was a full-time job offer. This full-time job offer was paying me really well. If I talk about it in USD, it was somewhere around 300, 400 USD. But it was one of those jobs that you just apply to during the end of your degree, just randomly apply without reading the job description. So God bless those good old days where you would not even see what you're applying to. You just instructed to apply to any job that you see. So it was one of those jobs. And the internship was in HR. And that was paying me somewhere around 35, 40 US dollars per month. There was no commitment of a full-time job. It was a summer internship. So I was ready for some kind of challenges as soon as I graduate, but this is something that I had not anticipated, that I'll have two jobs right after graduating, and then I would have to make a decision, right? You might be thinking that, well, it's an easy decision, just take the job, but it wasn't that easy because like I said, I knew that I always wanted to do HR. So at that time, I mean, there was no mentor, there was nobody who had this conversation with me that you should do this or you should do that. But I think when you set your heart on something, you should be willing to take the risk as well, and that's what I did. I took that internship. 2 months into the internship, I was one of the two interns out of the 65 who were offered a full-time position. And of course, I got lucky, but I think, as they say, if you set your heart on something, the whole universe conspires in helping you achieve it. So it was that kind of a situation. So 2 months down the road, I took a full-time job, which was contractual, by the way, with the same organization. So I went from an HR intern to an associate talent management in OD. I spent some 2 years in this role. And then the organization was going through some restructuring, and there was a position that came up in the head office, a position in culture and engagement, something that I, again, feel very strongly about. So I said, okay, I'll apply. It was a virtual position, and everybody told me in the organization, are you crazy? You're ruining your career here in Pakistan. You're going for a virtual job. The people that you'll be working with are sitting millions of miles away. There will be no career development. But I applied. I got it. It was a virtual position. I was working from Pakistan for this team, which was based in the Netherlands. It was the global talent team. And then 6 months down the road, again, I got a permanent position with the talent team, working with them for the next 4 years. Then I never looked back then. It was 4 years working with them. So much learning, so much exposure, working with the best global professionals, working in a multicultural environment, traveling to lots of countries. So it was the dream job. And then last year I joined Novartis because I thought, okay, now it's time to get out of my comfort zone. It's been 4.5 years since I've been working with this team and have been part of that organization for 6 years. So I took a leap of faith and joined Novartis last year.
Great, great. Thank you so much for sharing your entire career journey with us, Kinsa. And when you build your career, there are a lot of ups and downs, and there are highs and lows, there are challenges, there are upsides, and all of that. So we'd really like to know what your greatest achievements are so far. So maybe Kinsa, if you can share your greatest achievements or one of the great achievements that you have in your career, in your professional journey that you'd like to share with everybody.
Um, I don't think that I have achieved that much that I can count as, achievements in my professional journey. There's still so much to achieve. But like I said, just the fact that I'm part of this corporate world, I managed to enter, I've been part of it for 6 years because, Hadi, I think you would relate to it. We come from this part of the world where the society expects these certain things and behaviors of women. And culturally also, there are these specific defining moments of a girl's life, the most prominent of which is getting married to a suitable boy and settling down with a happy marriage. So generally, mothers in this part of the world worry a lot about how their daughters can have a good marriage and get settled. And the maximum age to do that is 20 to 23, at max 23, beyond which you're not quite marriageable. So initially, when I was interning, things were pretty chill at my house, and everybody was like, "Oh, she's just killing time, till her master's degree starts." But when I actually said that I want to pursue a full-time job, initially my mother outrightly refused. She was like, "No way, we've never had anybody in the family who's gone out for the sake of getting financial independence or pursuing her passion. And why do you need to do that when there's the man of the house to do that? Why she could not understand, and I completely get her point, right? It's because in her own place, she's never seen anybody do that in the family. So for me, convincing her was a task. Okay, let me do it. She said, "Oh, it's a contractual position and they will get rid of you in 6 months." And I said, "Okay, then I can start my master's after 6 months. I'll take a break for 2-3 months and then I can start my master's." So it took me convincing them to let me do it. And now you might be thinking, so what's the achievement part of it? The achievement part of it is that now the same family, the same mother is now the biggest advocate for letting girls pursue their passions and letting them take that risk and leap of faith. So I consider that an achievement for myself, because I've paved that way for my cousins who now want to maybe go into becoming a lawyer or going into engineering or technology sectors, because the corporate world is considered the man's world. What, how will you survive in that world, and why do you want to do that? So now that I've shown them the other side of it, I think I've made a bit of a positive impact for my the generation to come after me, or my younger cousins as well. So I think that.
Great, thank you so much. And the this example fits perfectly into what we're talking about today, like breaking the bias. And I think you've broken the bias perfectly for other generations to come and for other family members of yours, especially the females. So we'd also be very excited to know, Dana, what you think your greatest achievements have been in your career so far.
Thank you. I can relate to Kinza's story, since I'm coming from a small country called Moldova, which back in time would be quite known for its nepotism and corruption. So yeah, I grew up knowing that, if I want to achieve anything or if I want to be successful, I'll have to find a way to do it on my own means. And, I think a big achievement for me is the fact that I got a job in the government of Moldova without knowing anyone there, without having someone to call for me and to put a good word for me. I went through the competition. I was brave. I applied for a job that was more senior for maybe my experience at that point of time. But I don't know. I just found that fire in my belly, being like, I'm going to prove that it can be done differently, and it doesn't have to be the status quo. All the stories I've been told, no chances, there is no way. And then there is a way. So we need to break the biases, and we need to break the walls we have now as virtual backgrounds here. So yeah, I think the biggest achievements in my career were when I was brave enough, I was bold, and I applied for jobs that maybe required much more experience, many more years of professional achievements, very specific skills they were looking for. And I proved myself that, I've got a potential, I've got the right attitude, I'm willing to learn fast. And I'm going to show through ownership, I'm going to behave as a true CEO of whatever little role I'll get. So yeah, I think an achievement could be considered that. Yeah, and whenever I felt like there was a problem, and I wanted to find a solution, I went for it. Like, that's why I launched Mentor Me, the global mentorship program in Moldova, where we connect mentors and mentees so they can benefit from better opportunities. It was born as my own need of exploring the world and expanding my network and being exposed to better opportunities. So yeah, sorry, long answer, but shortly, I think an achievement in itself is when you get out of your comfort zone, you push your limits, and you apply for internships, jobs that you think are beyond your league and you can't get them. And the same happened for me at Google, Meta, where people would say, oh, it's 1 in a million chance you would get it. So what? There's still a chance, and you need to grasp it, take it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what's very interesting take away from this conversation is that Kinza and Nana are in two different parts of the world, but the challenges they face as women are somewhat similar. And the only way that you've fought this and broken the bias, I'd say, is by your perseverance and your sheer grit. So kudos to you two women for doing that. And I'm glad that you've paved way for other women to look up to you. And I'm sure through this webinar as well, a lot of people are learning, and a lot of girls are getting the encouragement that they need to start their careers as well. Now that we've spoken about the achievements and we've spoken about your entire career journey, I think it would be also very important to know what your biggest challenges were. Like Kinza already mentioned that her biggest challenge was to convince the members in her family. So we'd also like to know that, what sort of challenges did you face at the workplace? I know it's one thing to convince your family members, but once you step into the professional world, it's an entire different game. So, Kinza, would you like to share like the biggest challenge or the biggest hurdle that you faced in the professional world?
Yeah, Hadi, for me, I'll be honest that I have been fortunate enough to get the chance to work with some of the best organizations, some of the most seasoned professionals ever since the start of my career. So my first manager is still my mentor, and I reach out to him for anything that I need. Having said that, there are all kinds of people in the organizations, right? So among the other challenges that I faced, one thing that I'm still facing, and I started facing the day I started my job, was that I was looked upon as a very young employee or an associate. So I started working when I was 22. I was the youngest in my organization till last year, even. So at my first job, I was the youngest here in Pakistan, and then I started working with the global team, where again, people with a lot of experience and exposure, like really seasoned professionals. And then there was this under 30 girl trying to fit in. So I guess that was one of the biggest challenges that I faced, getting these people to take me seriously. And I think I've read up a lot about it as well. So for young employees, this is a common setback, not being taken seriously by experienced colleagues. But having said that, I think um, I took that as a positive for myself. And what I did at one of my organizations was that when I saw that there's a lot of resistance against young people, I launched a reverse mentoring program. So I was in the power to do that, and I wanted to show them that there's a lot of value that you can get. A lot of fresh ideas and fresh perspectives that these millennials and now Gen Zs are bringing to the workspace. And of course, your experience, nobody is belittling that, but there's also value in all kinds of there's value in diversity, basically any kind of diversity. So this is one where I have, if I have to just speak about one, this would be that.
Yeah, that's great, and I think that is something that when you're working in big corporate organizations, this is something that people are faced with. And I'm glad that you found a way around it. Like, that's again, it speaks about your perseverance and your grit. So Nana would also love to know about what was the biggest challenge that you faced when you first started out in your job.
Yeah, I think similar with Kinza, I started my career quite early when I was 19. So I was juggling, university plus the part-time PR job. So yeah, I think age has always been a bias. Even when I became the communications team leader at the government of Moldova for the Diaspora Relations Bureau, an entirely new agency that I had to create the communications channels, the branding from scratch. I was 20 to 23, 22, yeah, when I joined. And in my team I had two guys. One was older than me, another one also older than me, plus he wanted the job that I got. So there was always that kind of age, gender bias going on, because they looked at me as someone super young, as a woman. Who did she sleep with to get this job? Those kind of thoughts. And I think the immediate reaction you can get is and take is fake it till you make it. So you look around you, you try to mimic the same behaviors you see at your male colleagues who are leading teams, or at your female colleagues as well. But I think the challenge there is that you're not true to yourself, and you come across as someone who's not authentic, and you can't gain the respect of your team that way. So the best advice I got from a mentor, Angela Staffy from the government, was, Dana, find your style, find your leadership fuel, what fuels you as a leader, what can you bring different as who you are. And yeah, once I realized that, I think I really was on a better path of discovering who I am, but also being true to myself. And later on, when I joined the sales space, being a foreigner in a sales team, in a B2B SaaS, in tech, it's like the best variables for for you to deal even with more, I don't know, misconceptions or myths or stereotypes about who you are. I dealt with a stereotype of being Eastern European, and people think that if you are from Eastern Europe, all the Eastern European are the same, as probably you guys face the same in MENA. Like, how annoying is that, just to be labeled? And, like being called an ice queen in a company just because, I was quite direct and I was results oriented, and they would make me feel that I have no emotions and empathy, which is so untrue to who I am. So yeah, I think, and then, when I moved to a sales org, when I was given to cover the UK market, and hearing one of our senior leaders telling our partner, who's an Italian partner, telling, no way you can enter the UK market without having native speakers here. And, at that point, I was the foreigner who was taking on the UK market. So what kind of message are you trying to send me and others around you? Or when you go to industry events and, instead of some men to hear what business you can do together, what partnerships you can build, they offer you, some romantic.
I think the video has been stuck. Can you hear me, Dana, Kinza?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I think there was some issue with the internet. Continue, Dana.
Yeah. Then okay. So, long story short, you always face some biases as a woman, no matter where you are. And I think it's very important to, in that moment or later, to go to that person and to say that that's not okay. And the way you said certain things or the way you behaved, this is how it made me feel. This is the message that landed. So yeah, I think it's the journey is 1% finished. There are so many challenges that women still face day to day. And I've been very lucky to be at Meta, where there are so many female leaders, so many women in sales, in tech. But whenever I get out of my bubble, I realize that we're so far from full equality, inclusion, and diversity. And that's why we need to stick together. That's why we need to help each other to achieve great things.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Dana, like you mentioned, like you had a mentor who told you that you need to find your fuel for your leadership style. So I'd also want to know that what male mentors did you guys have, or male figures at your workplace that sort of saw the struggle that you guys were going through being women, and that helped you break the bias. So Kinza, if you'd like to share like somebody who you're looking up to, who's helping you break the bias, who's a feminist around you, and who's sort of who's guiding you to sort of break the bias and be the leader that you want to be.
Yeah. So, yes, I think absolutely mentors are so important if you want some help in navigating the career, because all of us face some kind of challenges, right? Going through our journeys. And if you have a mentor that you can look up to, go to for advice, I think it's a big win for you. So for me, I do have a couple of mentors. Most of them actually, interestingly, have been my bosses in the past. So the guy that I was speaking about earlier, he was my manager, and then another manager. So these are all managers that I can think of. But I can tell you of an interesting story and the impact that a mentor can have on you. So a few years back, we had a new hire in our team, and this was a guy that we hired into the same team as me, and he was reporting to the same manager. Both of us, had overlapping responsibilities and the same grade, peers in simple words. So I noticed after a month or so, I noticed that this guy has a kind of different working style than I do. So I come in at 9:30, 10, chit chat, get my coffee, and then I just head down, get to work, and work till the end of the day, obviously with some small lunch breaks and stuff. But with him, I noticed that he would come in relaxed at 11. He'd get his cup of coffee, and then he'll go meet somebody. I mean, and then he would go have lunch with somebody, and then he's going for a smoke break with somebody. So he's spending most of his time networking, as if I can conclude that in one. And it was very hard to pin him down. But me being a good team player, I thought it's okay, whatever. We're both in the same team, and we're both responsible for same kind of thing. So as long as the output is not getting affected, or I'm not directly getting affected by it, it's okay. So one day I get to know that this guy earns more than me also. So this guy who is not as experienced as I am, and then not being petty, but even his GPA is not as much as I had. How can he be paid more than me, right?
That is a little petty. The GPA bit is a little petty.
Come on. Yeah, but come on. How can you do that? So me being me, I'm a very calm person, but when I get angry, I forget everything. So I decided that now today I am resigning. That's it. I worked so hard, and then this is what this company gives me. So I march up to my previous boss's room. He was in the other building. His designation had changed, so now I wasn't reporting to him, but he's my mentor. So I marched up to his office, and I'm all furious, and I'm like, you know what? I'm blabbering the entire story, and I just got to know an XYZ, XYZ. And he's listening to me calmly, and then he says, okay, sit down. I still don't understand, why do you want to resign? So I'm like, I just told you, he's being paid more and I'm doing all the work. So then he gave me a very important lesson in life. He said, listen, are you learning something? If you are doing all the work, does this mean that your learning curve is not increasing, or you've become stagnant at some point? And I said, no. Obviously, I'm learning a lot because, I'm doing work that I've not done before. So the learning is not an issue. The paycheck is the issue. So he said that he told me that your career is very young at this point in time, and if you take my advice, I will tell you that use this time to learn as much as you can, and stop comparing yourself to anybody in the room. Right? He said that 5 years down the line, this guy who's not really doing any hands-on work, if you compare yourself to him in the next 5 years, there'll be a big difference in the skill level of you two, and the experience that you two have. So at that time, maybe we can come back to this conversation, and we can again compare how much is he making and how much are you making. But right now, don't get into that. And it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. This is something that I've tied with me, to be honest. I've used this advice throughout my career. And so the point here is that mentors are very important in life. He used this my mentor used his experience, his exposure. He guided me through that because he probably had been through the same experiences, and he had something to share with me. So if I had not had him, I probably would have resigned. I would not have been sitting here with you. So yeah, very, very important, I guess.
No, that's such an interesting example that you've shared. I'm sure there, like this is the point that I want to come to later as well, like the pay disparity in the workplace. But I'm really interested to know who Dana's mentor is at her workplace or in a personal capacity. So Dana, if you can share who your mentor is and how important mentorship do you think is?
Yeah, but just to build on Kinza's point, before I share that, so for instance, when I was the head of UK sales team, I realized that the guy I was managing was earning more than me as well. And, he was bringing less revenue, he had less responsibilities. And I was just wondering how that happened. And I went that time to my mentor, to discuss this. I like Kinza, I was furious, like how on earth this would happen. And then I got the best lesson ever. It's that guy negotiated his offer, I didn't. As a woman, you never think that you can negotiate. You just assume you get an offer, the company is fair, has your best interest at heart, but it's not true. The company's interest is to get the top talents at the lower cost possible. Your interest as a talent to get the best offer possible for the value that you're bringing, right? So yeah, a small advice there that might bring a lot of financial investments for you in the future is always negotiate, no matter if it's your, of course, if it's your first role, first job, it's harder, but still, you can still try to get something, different and special. Because as a woman, my first job in London, I didn't negotiate, so that became my benchmark. Later you move to a different role, they always want to know, what did you have before? So never answer that question. Never say how much you're on. Say what you want, what your expectations are. So yeah, going back to mentors, I mentioned one of my mentors in that particular situation, but I had mentors throughout my career, like even from my student years, when I shared that I want to do more, I want to push myself out of my comfort zone. And, a friend of mine who became a mentor said, why don't you run a newspaper for your faculty, for your major. And I went to the president of my major and asked to become a journalist in that newspaper. And he said, oh, the newspaper is dead. If you want, you can run it. And I'm like, what? So yeah, and then my mentor said, why not? Go for it. Like, you'll learn how this industry works. You'll put a team together. You'll create a strategy for it. So mentors are always there for you if you ask, if you share what you're passionate about, what you want to achieve, where you want to get next. And even though your mentors might not be the right person to help you with that next step, they might know someone else. So for instance, when I was an exchange student in New York, I got a scholarship to study there, and I wanted to stay for the summer for another internship. And normally in the US, internships are not paid, which makes it very difficult for young professionals, to do it. And one of my mentors, she just sent my CV to her entire network in Washington, D.C., Evgenia Berzan. Thank you for that. And I got a paid internship in Washington, D.C. in an international development company in a very cool department, reporting to the VP of operations. And now at Meta, I have so many amazing mentors, and I feel like sometimes I build this board of directors with a few mentors. So whenever I have a big decision to make, I'm going to them and I'm expressing what are the pros and cons, what the dilemma is, and they always help. And I know we put a lot of emphasis on women helping each other, supporting each other grow, and that's outstanding. But also, see this male-dominant corporate world as an opportunity for you, right? All these men out there, I hope they want to become better. They want to have more diverse and inclusive teams. And some of them have been through trainings, or some of them do have that as a personal, professional KPI. So ask them to become your mentors. Make them understand, what the challenges as a woman you go through, because that's going to build their empathy. That's going to build their willingness to help more and speak up on your behalf when you are not in the room. They can become your sponsors too, that megaphone to cheer for you or to connect you with opportunities. So yeah, don't think of your mentors as someone who is there for every single aspect or dilemma or question you've got. Think of your mentors as a board of directors where you go to different mentors for different things, and you also give them back something, right? They learn from you as much as you learn from them. So, and if they teach you something, and if they give you a good advice, like show you care and you put it into action and show results. Like as a mentor, I'm going to invest in someone who's showing that they are willing to do the homework, they are willing to take action. And, even though I've been their mentor as in a formal capacity for 3 months, if I see their drive and if I see that they really want to grow further and faster, I'm going to invest in them no matter what. And the same applies to my mentors, ex-managers, friends now, they all are your mentors, and you learn so much from each of them.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Dana said, I really like how she's explained that it benefits both the parties. And I also feel like this mentor-mentee relationship, it's a very pure relationship. because for the mentor, nobody's really forced them to be in that position. They genuinely want to see you doing good, and they genuinely want what's best for you. So there's no extrinsic motivation, it's all very intrinsic. So that makes the relationship very not transactional, so it makes it very relational. And I think that's when you can achieve the most benefits out of a relationship, where you are not, there are no hidden agendas. Both the parties want what's best for the other person, and both are benefiting from it. So, yeah.
No, that's actually very very true, Kinsa, Nana, that you've shared. That you, when you were starting out, or when you, if you're in any part of your professional journey, you do need to have a mentor. But everyone's not as lucky as Dana or Kinza to have a mentor in their lives, right? So this is where Curious is playing their part. We're connecting the apprentices who are just starting out there in professional journeys, or they want to upskill themselves. We are connecting them with the right side of kind of mentors, because we see the need, that everybody needs guidance, some sort of guidance and mentorship in their lives to excel in their either professional journeys or their personal journeys. So this is where Curious is playing our part, right? So we also wanted, we when we talk about having mentors, I also want to know about how you guys had female mentors, right? Because when you have like a female mentor, they've been through a lot of your gendered struggles themselves, right? So who is that female mentor, or who is that female role model that you look up to, right? So Dana, if you would like to share somebody that you look up to, it may or may not have been somebody you actively know, but somebody that you admire.
Yes. So I have 4 brilliant mentors, even 5. Yeah, many. Well, if I have to pick, so Maria Purcell, she is my ex-manager here at Meta, and she's been an absolutely fantastic mentor, and she gave me so many great advices, like, Dana, when everyone looks to the right, you look to the left. And that's how she's built an amazing career, and that's how she created lots of business opportunities wherever she goes. And yeah, even though she's not my manager anymore, and at Meta, we see managers as coaches, as mentors, she really saw how I absorb all the learnings that she shared as a female leader with me, and I put them into practice. So she's willing to invest further. I also had an absolutely fantastic mentor, Ilka, who's now at Coinbase. But she, whenever I shared my challenges or my aspirations, she's always been great to remind me that I don't need to be patient. I don't need to listen to all those men telling me, you need to be patient. Everything will come, when you know that's not the case. And so yeah, she's always made me believe that I can achieve what I want. I just need to go for it, and no one should stop me from it. And Vicky, the head of APAC at Workplace from Meta, she's just such an empathetic and switched on leader. I don't know how she does it, like to show so much care for everyone, but also be such a brave business leader to take like tough decisions and to get us grow much faster. So her region flourished under her leadership, and she's, even like for her to invest time with me, late at night for her time in Sydney, me joining from London, it just shows that women out there, they know the struggles, they want to help. And they want to make sure you don't go through the same annoying and painful challenges as they did. Yeah, and Christine in North America, like the amount of resilience this leader has is just amazing, and she's teaching us every day how you can be both like inspirational, but also empathetic, but also great at connecting the dots and connecting the different businesses we have here at Meta for the greater good. So yeah, there are so many women out there who want to help and want to invest in other women, and I don't believe that myth around, oh, a woman, once she's high up there. She doesn't want to help. I think it's just something that wants to make us feel less united. Women and men are out there to help other women grow and develop themselves and achieve all the great dreams they put their mind and heart towards.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Dana, it makes me really happy to know that you don't have one women mentor or one women that you're looking up to. There are multiple. So this makes me believe in the fact that women are sticking together and they're building each other up, and they're encouraging each other to achieve what their dreams are, be it professional or personal. And I'm also excited to know who Kinza has in her circle, that she's looking up to, or the women that she admires. So Kinza, if you could share.
When it comes to women in leadership who are inspired and who I am inspired by, and I don't know, I think uh, two names always come to my mind. One is Lena Nair, who's now the CEO of Chanel, and I really look up to her because she's had a journey in HR, and I kind of relate to everything that she's saying. She's also from a similar world as ours, and she's managed to grow up. And everything that she says, I can totally relate to it. Her passion for people is incredibly amazing. And then the second would be the Prime Minister of New Zealand that I really admire her, Jacinda Ardern, because I feel like she's such a human form of leadership. I was reading an article somewhere, not on her, but on general leadership, where it said that the best leaders are like an iron fist in a velvet glove. So I felt like that really fits her perfectly well. So that is, I won't speak too much about these two because these are leaders that I admire, but I directly don't know, of course. But two women who really helped me in my career is one was my previous manager when I was working with the global talent team, and her name is Elizabeth. She goes by the name of Betka, and she's taught me so much. I spent 4 years with her, and I think I owe a lot of my exposure and professional success to her, because every time I'm faced with any kind of, even like a bias or a problem, there are people who make these comments about, women at the workplace. They make these comments, like subtle comments, discrimination. So every time I needed somebody to discuss it with, I would go up to her. And she's married, she has 3 kids, she has a beautiful career that she's had over the past 20 years. So and she's so willing to always invest time. Like Dana said, the best kind of mentors are those who are willing to give you time even despite the differences in time zones. So she's the kind of person I can just text that I'm facing this kind of a problem at the workplace, what should I do, what do you suggest? And she would give pour her soul out to give me a suggestion that you should do this, and then she would follow up. So these are the kind of leaders that you need in your life. And of course, my current manager as well. She's super supportive. There are times when I get annoyed by, like we said, comments about your age or these unconscious biases that men have at their workplace. I had a leader once who said that he does not want to hire a female in sales, because then at 6 o'clock she'd tell him that, oh, I have to go back home because my husband's calling, or my mother's calling. So these are the kind of leaders, senior leaders that we have. And when you're faced with these kind of challenges, you kind of question, what is he thinking about me at this point in time? So that's where your mentors play a great role. And I always just walk up to them, and these two mentors, so my previous manager and my current manager, these are my go-to people. And it's, they say that women pull other women down and they don't want to help them succeed, but I really don't think that's true. That might be true, of course, maybe not in my bubble, at least. And like Dana said, in our bubble, we don't see that. And that's why I think Qureos and Mentor Me are doing such amazing, incredible work to take this out of our bubble, and so that this can reach other people as well who are not able to find these opportunities.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, really happy to know that you have multiple women that you're looking up to. I have a lot of other questions that I want to ask, but this conversation has been so lovely that I haven't even noticed that how time flew by. I will now be including questions from from Facebook and LinkedIn that people are asking, because our questions and the comment section has been filled. So I am going to take a question from Fatma. She's messaged on LinkedIn. She's saying, how do you manage a work life balance in a competitive environment where you want to do better, but also be fair to yourself? Dana, if you would like to go first.
Work-life balance, hard one. I think in tech, we talk a lot about work-life integration. It's, you know, my company allows for a lot of flexibility and autonomy, so I can create my schedule around, my personal needs and my mental health, but also making sure I deliver the best work in the best time when I can. But I think it's very important to set the boundaries right. And I think it's very easy at the beginning when you join, you want to prove yourself, you want to pass through that probation period, you want to please everyone, you want to say yes to every single request, which is crazy. But I think you need to be comfortable to set the tone right and what's important to you as a leader, as a woman, as a professional, as an employee, as a colleague from the beginning. Like, what are your values, what you can do and what you can't do, what are the deal breakers, even in the interview process. Like, make sure they know about your situation and how you work and when you best work, because I've been in some sales roles where they expect you to be constantly connected, and how can you be at your best in front of your clients if you don't have enough sleep, if your mind is shifting somewhere else? Like, so yeah, I think it's just make sure you're honest about it early on. Not don't Do not wait until you reach that point where you are like burning out and you don't know how to say it. Like, say it early and set the boundaries. And of course there will be situations when you'll have to go above and beyond and work later or get up earlier. There are situations like that. But if that's a deal breaker for you, then make sure you join a company that's more strict about their hours, because in tech we are more fluid around it.
Yeah, and I think to add on to what Dana said, very good suggestions, Dana, that you need to speak what you're thinking. So for that, I would also say the same thing. Speak up. If you feel like your work life balance is getting affected, speak up. Speak about it on as many forums as you can. Of course, some organizations now have this whole ecosystem in place where we're supporting women with policies in place, and this whole ecosystem like flexible working, choose where you want to work from, choose when you want to work. So even at Novartis, we have this whole choice with responsibility program where nobody's going to question you about the hours that you're working or what are the timings that you fix for yourself, as long as you're getting your work done and you're completing that 6 hour window. But for people who don't have an ecosystem in place, speak up, because being a part of HR, I can tell you firsthand that somebody is listening. If the more you say it, the more it's going to make an impact. So if it's bothering you, speak up. And also, I had a colleague in my earlier organization where the head of HR expected us to be available on our internal social platform over the weekends as well. So then he brought this topic to one of the meetings that, oh, you guys were not responding and some guys were responding. So I had a colleague who stood up and who said that I don't have the time to respond to official messages over a weekend. That's beyond our scope. So let's discuss that. Let's put it on the table. And if you want us to do that, then let's decide that it's in scope, that we will be working over the weekends as well. So that is just an example of how you can speak up always your mind, and something good will come out of it.
Yeah, that's actually a very good example, because women, they're not really encouraged to speak their mind, right? So if this is something that you start doing, it's going to make things easier for other women as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on and take another question from the comment section. We have Mackenzie Harrison, who's saying, how can corporations make intentional decisions to foster a more inclusive work culture? Kinza, if you can share some thoughts.
That's a very broad question. I would say, how can organizations make
Yeah, but
sure that?
you've been working in HR, so I think you were in a better position to take that question.
Can you repeat what the question is?
Yeah, yeah. So it's how can corporations make intentional decisions to foster a more inclusive work culture?
Well, I think it's a very broad question, to be honest, because you don't just build an inclusive culture, it needs to be on the leadership's agenda as well. Then it needs to trickle down from there. Because if I go out and I start speaking about I need diversity, I need inclusion, or I need equity, probably nobody is going to listen to me. But this has become such a critical topic that yes, you should also speak about it. Speak about it in your organization, speak about it in your town halls. But as an agenda, or how you can make sure that an organization has DEI embedded, that comes from the leadership, right? That needs to come from the top, and then it needs to be reflected into all processes. So diversity, if I talk about diversity, I can't just say that having two females in my team, I've ticked the diversity box. It needs to be a full-fledged embedded agenda. Uh, and the whole organization needs to be working towards that agenda, right? So how, if you ask me, how can an organization become more inclusive? There's a lot that you can do. First of all, you build a DNI team. You make sure that these goals are embedded into the company KPIs as well. It's not just somebody's one team's KPIs. It can't happen like that. It needs to come from the top. Then, like Novartis is doing, we have signed up an epic pledge. So it's a pledge that we've made, covering certain points for DNI. So this is one thing that an organization can do to make sure that DNI is on the agenda. But I don't want to. I can speak about it forever. But if I had to say one thing, it's that it needs to come from the top. You need to embed it into your processes, your policies, your KPIs, and that's how the organization will become inclusive. Otherwise, it can't become DE or DNI. You can't become DNI champions otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for such a detailed answer, Kinza. I want to take all the questions, but we're really running short on time. So, one last question that I'm going to take for both of you, if you can just summarize in like one line or one para. It is that what best piece of advice have you ever received? So, Dana, if you can share like a gist of what was the best advice that you've ever received.
Um, the best piece of advice I received is to never be afraid to fail. I think we are used to read all the success stories and a crazy growth and crazy career and all that, but it just covers 1%. If 1% of that person's journey, like most of it was paved with failures, and that's where you learn most. And that's when you realize who you truly are, how you behave under stressful situations, how you can build up your resilience, how can you discover new things about yourself that you never recognized. So yeah, I think the best advice I got is don't be afraid to fail, because the opportunity to learn is so huge, and every success is built on hundreds of failures.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing this, Nana. Kinza, if you could quickly share something that you've been given as an advice and it stuck to you.
I think one, obviously, I've talked about the one that you need to prioritize your learning above anything else, and everything else will fall into place. But apart from that, I think if we have audience from this part of the world, we tend to underestimate our own abilities. Oftentimes, we look at jobs and we're like, oh, we will never get in. Or if even internally, if I see a job, I'm like, oh, why would they approach somebody from Pakistan? But they do. Just take that leap of faith. So my manager always used to tell me, my previous manager, that don't underestimate your abilities. Don't just assume things that they wouldn't hire me, or they wouldn't consider me. Take that leap of faith, apply, and then let them take the decision. Don't reach a conclusion just on your own inhibitions and your own biases about yourself.
Yeah, so basically break the bias, what you were talking
Break the
about today.
bias. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in, who've asked questions. We've had Zara, we've had Osama, Soha, I'm really sorry if there's a question that has been missed, but the conversation has been so engaging that, we didn't even know where the time went. And I'd also like to share my heartfelt thanks with Dana you and Kinza you. Thank you so much for taking out the time and coming on here and sharing your insights and telling us how you've broken the bias, how you've been a mentor, how you've had mentors. So thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you for having us, Hadia. It's I didn't even realize the hour just went by.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Great. And everyone who's tuned in, I'd also like to share that the learning journey of yours does not end here. You're more than happy, more than free to sign up to www.qureos.com. We have a lot of cohorts and webinars and different learning opportunities on the platform. Sign up there. Look at what works best for you, and you will have a great learning experience. Find the mentor who's right for you and start your learning and mentoring journey. Again, thank you everyone for tuning in. We've had a great time. We've had a great conversation, and you'll be seeing more of these webinars on LinkedIn, Facebook. Stay tuned to our pages, and you'll also be seeing more of Dana and Kinza on our platform. Again, thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you, Dana and Kinza, for being a part of it. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Stay in
you.
touch.
Same.